Dean Arnold.
Supposed to be hearing music, but I don't hear any music. Do you? Okay. Once again, working through my technical issues. Got a ways to go, I guess. I'm also working on better Wi-Fi. I think I got a little tweak today that's going to help today's podcast. I'm Dean Arnold. This is the Dean Arnold Podcast. I'm running for Congress, District 3, Southeast Tennessee. Vote for me on November 3rd and give to my campaign, DeanArnoldForCongress.com. This is my podcast where I develop name recognition and get people to follow me and perhaps vote for me, bringing sanity to an insane world. One of my mottos. And if you're listening, please comment or ask questions on whatever platform you're on. I think I can read it and I'll try to respond to those. But here we are. So yeah, I'm working on Wi-Fi improvements. Had a guy come over here from one of the companies, and he actually gave me an idea to do it pretty quick and pretty cheap. We'll see. But that was pretty cool of him. And so here we go. Today's podcast is going to be about turning swords into plowshares. And it's another interesting kind of a positive view of the future from piggybacking off of what we did yesterday. Because it involves my own grandfather. So we're going to talk about that today on the show. I'm going to try to make it shorter today. Just is going to be quite a challenge. I think I can do it. I think I'm up for the task, but it ain't like easy. But so I can't be like doing hour-long podcasts every day like I did yesterday. But today I'm going to try to make it shorter. And because of that, I've got a smaller cigar. And I do have a backup cigar if we have a problem, because we don't want to be without cigars. But here we go. So let's get into our podcast about the future and turning swords into plowshares. But first, we want to talk about what's important today. It's not the federal government, and it's not strange wars going on that we shouldn't be involved in over there and over yonder. Should we look into it? Maybe a little bit, but should we spend all day thinking about it and obsessing about it? No. Step away from the news. We're going to talk about what really matters today, which is the scripture passage on the church calendar and the Christian hero today on the church calendar. So let's start with the scriptures on the church calendar. Okay. Now I've got to perform here and go to share screen and find a scripture here. Daggone it. Can't seem to find it now, can I? That makes me mad. But that's because I don't have it pulled up here. And I think I can do that now. Scripture readings. Okay, good. And there we go. Okay, you got it? Okay, now I got to do this. Let's make sure you got this, because I think it's important that that you see this verse, because the verse on the calendar today, it's intense, man. It's intense. That's one of the reasons we do this. One of the reasons I love doing this is that, I can't be accused of like cherry picking and, you're obsessing on certain issues. I mean, you get what you get each day on the church calendar. It's what the church authorities give to you. And yesterday it was the Beatitudes, love and peace and meekness and poor spirit and all those kind of wonderful things. Well, guess what? Today it ain't that. Today's verse on the calendar for the epistles is Romans chapter 1. Let's just start it here where it says, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth and unrighteousness." Okay, God is mad. Not the Beatitudes so much. I mean, it can be. We talked about how if you're patient and long suffering, which God certainly is. This is about God being mad. God's mad. Okay, now what does that mean? What's he mad about? Is he mad because you're not tolerant enough? No. Is he mad because you're not submitting to your wife? No. What's he mad about? Well, he gets into various things, idolatry and that kind of stuff. But let's get to the bottom. He's mad in large part because of sodomy, homosexuality. That's right. It's right here in Romans chapter 1. It's the first thing Paul really wants to talk about in the long 12-chapter book of Romans is he ain't happy about sodomy. God is not happy about sodomy. There's wrath going on here. Therefore, verse 24 here, therefore God gave them up to uncleanness in the lusts of their hearts to dishonor their bodies among themselves. And he goes on, for this reason, God gave them up to vile passions. This is verse 26. I skipped. For even their women exchanged the natural use for what is against nature. That's an interesting verse because some people think that's lesbianism. And I've heard other interpretations that say that's actually, I hate to say that, but here we are in 2026, anal sex. So that when women give themselves up to anal sex, then men are like, well, I can do this with a man. But anyway, that was a brief aside. Verse 27, likewise, also the men leaving the natural use of the women, interesting, burned in their lusts for one another, men with men committing what is shameful and receiving in themselves the penalty of their error, which was due. Okay, so, not a small thing. And we've entered the age of globo homo in this world, where the United States of Sodomy America goes all over the world seeking to advance the globo homo agenda, the rainbow flag, subsidizing perversion, hanging the flag in our embassies across the world. It's all so very, very shameful. But that's where we are. We've got to oppose it. Russia opposes it. Yeah. The Muslims oppose it. Yes, they do. We need to figure this out, guys. We live in a very perverse age. So that's what's on the church calendar for the epistle. I didn't put it there. I didn't designate today, June 3rd, as the day for condemning sodomites. I didn't. Apostle Paul did that. The church did that for the last 2,000 years. Yesterday was the Beatitudes. Tomorrow might be love everyone and love your enemies. But today it's God is really angry about sodomites. That's what it is. Okay. Let's go to the next passage on the church calendar. I don't think there's a whole lot to say about that. Every day there's an epistle reading and a gospel reading. Uh-oh. We got lighter issues, but I already got it lit. Haha. Okay. This is interesting because this is the passage where Jesus says your righteousness needs to exceed the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees. So we kind of go from the lowest of the low, which in Romans 1, Paul says is sodomy, where men just in themselves, they just shame themselves, which is true. And, women don't get this. Women don't have the whole pride, dignity thing going on with men and moral outrage and that sort of thing. But, and men don't speak up about this too much. But one of the reasons most men oppose homosexuality and the gay agenda is they're completely disgusted by it. It's just shameful. It's just horrible in terms of being a shameful thing. Doing what they do to each other, it's shameful. Anyway, I digress. So that for the very worst kind of thing that Paul talks about, and then the gospel passage, we talk about the highest of the highest. Your righteousness needs to exceed that of the Pharisees, or you won't be able to enter the kingdom of heaven. And he gets into, you say thou shalt not murder, but I say anybody who calls his brother a fool or who gets angry with him, he's guilty of murder. And I think in the same passage, it's not here on the calendar yet. If you lust against a woman, you've committed adultery. Agree with your adversary quickly before you go to the altar. But anyway, so extreme wickedness and perversion, and then extreme righteousness is what it talks about on the church calendar. Sometimes you find some interesting juxtapositions, I think, and I think probably the church fathers did that on purpose. Okay, scripture reading of the day. Now we will go to the Christian hero of the day, which I think you're seeing all this. Saint Kevin of Glendalough. Okay, this is in Britain, 6th century. I had to look up how to pronounce Glendalough, because I am product of public education, and we didn't talk a whole lot about ancient England. But Saint Kevin, there was some other saints on the calendar today, but I chose Saint Kevin because I got some peeps named Kevin, and I thought I would honor them. I got a friend named Kevin who came over to my house this morning. He's going to help me paint my porch. Been going to church with me for 15 years. What's up, Kevin? Got another Kevin that's been coming to my Monday night group here at the Cigar Lounge, who is a really interesting young guy. Looking forward to get to know him better, but he's a Kevin. And then there's another Kevin that I was thinking of when I did this. The priest over in Cleveland, Tennessee, a half an hour away. His name is Kevin, Father Kevin. He's very proud of his Anglo Saxon heritage, I guess you'd say. And he took on the name Saint Kevin. It's not typical, I think, to take on Western saints. So there's Western saints, but you got to go before this great schism of 1054 between the Roman Catholics and the Orthodox. Maybe a podcast for another day, but preceding 1054 AD, there's a lot of saints in the West. Pretty cool people. Who can I name? Patrick is a famous early Western saint. I'm blanking out and I'm feeling bad about it, but Kevin's one of them. What do we know about it? And there's his icon. What do we know about him? A few interesting stories. Some of them are kind of crazy. Some of them believable, some of them not believable. In the hagiography here, they say that there are a lot of miraculous stories connected with him, but and his birth particularly, but most are unreliable. So at least they're honest about that. But when he was a teenager or something, he was good looking, and some girl just got her sights on him, and she decided she was going to have her some Kevin. And so she went after him and chased him, and he ran into the woods to get away from her because he was a godly man. And he started beating her with nettles. I had to look up nettles. Nettles are some kind of plant that has some kind of chemical on it that is irritating. But anyway, he started beating her with nettles, so she ran away from him, and ended up she became a nun. So that's a fun story. Then he's got a lot of story. He went out into the nature and spent a lot of time in solitude in caves and that sort of thing. And birds and animals would come to him and eat out of his hand. He founded a monastery and became a famous saint of the church. And I think that's about all I got for you. It's a long thing, but it's mostly stories about him being alone and animals coming and laying eggs on his hand and that sort of thing. So you can look at that, Saint Kevin. So that is our saint of the day, Christian hero. All right, let's get back out of that. Let's come back to me. Hey, everybody. And let's talk about our subject of the day, which is beating swords into plowshares. It has to do with my grandfather, Howard Waite. It's a story I'll tell about him. Basically, he was older, probably in his 80s, mid to late 80s. I can't remember. Let's say early 80s. And he asked me to drive him to New York, to the United Nations. He lived in San Francisco, but I think for some reason at that time, maybe he was in Philly or DC. Maybe that probably makes more sense. He probably was had gone to Washington, D.C. By the way, I need to do this throughout the podcast. I'm Dean Arnold. I'm running for Congress. This is my podcast. Vote for me on November 3rd and go to deanarnoldforcongress.com and donate. I need donations. Even $25 donations will help me target my district with this podcast. So thank you. He was in D.C. He asked me to drive him up from D.C. to New York because he wanted to submit his grand proposal to the United Nations. And once we got to New York, I think, or maybe we picked him up in Philly, my old buddy Chuck Etzweiler was with me. Chuck, you out there? Maybe his wife Sue's watching this. But anyway, so we go to United. So what is it? Why is he going to the United Nations? This thing's staying lit very nicely. He had a grand plan. Okay, first of all, a couple things. He was an atheist. He kind of made fun of Christians, even though my dad was like a fundamentalist preacher. And so that made for interesting times with the family. He was a kind of a Greenpeace, save the whales, no nukes kind of liberal activist. A lot of that was bad. A lot of it was good. But an interesting character who was trying to do a lot of good things. He had this idea. By the way, to the left of my head, I'm going to do a podcast on all the things behind me here. And then I got a whole bunch of other things in this cigar lounge that we could do podcasts on. We'll see. But to the left of my head is a cabin he built about a half an hour north of San Francisco on top of Vision Mountain in Inverness next to Point Reyes, California, Marin County. All you people from the lands of fruits and nuts may know what I'm talking about, but that's a cabin. You can't quite tell it from here. I'd try to zoom in on it, but I'd probably screw everything up and we'd be doing that. But it was an award-winning cabin. It got into lots of books and that kind of thing. And as a kid, we're going out to California all the time, every 2 or 3 years, and I'm hanging out in the cabin. Or actually, when I was little, they were building the cabin. So that's a famous cabin that it's part of my heritage. So I got it up on the wall. Well, Howard built that. He was a cool dude. They were prepping and living on top of a mountain with no power and well water, spring water, actually, eating out of the garden and, just crazy. Way back when. My first cousins were weaned on beet juice. Okay, just these are the family legends. So Howard had this idea that he wanted to take the United Nations, and he had it all drawn up or whatever, but he was tired of war and nuclear war. Good for him. He was tired of the military-industrial complex. Good for him. He was trying to heed what Ike, General and President Eisenhower, had warned us against, this monstrous beast of the military-industrial complex that's going to take over the country, which it has. But Howard was trying to heed all that. Good for him. So he said we needed to do something kind of like what Ike did. Ike, to keep us away from the military and industrial complex, he started the whole interstate system. Why did that matter? Because instead of feeding the beast of the internet system, this cigar didn't keep doing as well as I hoped it would. Instead of, let's try this. Instead of feeding the beast of the interstate system, feeding the beast of the military-industrial complex, we were feeding the beast of the internet system. It was creating jobs. We were building things. It was leading to something productive and helpful for generations, not war, which is only destructive. So Howard had this idea, hey, let's build a train. My mother told me it was a monorail. I don't know the difference between a train and a monorail. Maybe someone can tell us. I better look into the comments there, see if I've got any comments yet. And it looks like I have. I'm from Jay, just chilling. All right, Biggie. B. Smalls, you're from Jay, just chilling. Glad you're here. And I got another guy who says I'm from Jay. When they say I'm from Jay, they mean Jay Dyer, who is my godson in the Orthodox Church. We're going to get him in here in a few weeks. I'm not ready for Jay yet, but appreciate you guys shouting out. Okay, Howard had a idea for a train, to build a train track, and now I've got to bring up a map, add to stage. No, remove. Daggone it. I know how to do this. Share screen. And here it is. Nice. All right, see that? So a train that goes from the tip of Africa on the left, bottom tip of Africa, goes up through, looks like Ethiopia. Yeah, my people. Through Ethiopia, maybe a touch of Egypt, I can't tell. Now you're going through India and Asia, and now you're getting up into Siberia, up at the top, the big north, it says. Then you go across the Bering Straits into Alaska, all the way down through North America, mostly the left coast, and then South America, and then all the way to the tip of South America. So it makes a big U, big arch, like a St. Louis arch. And from that main line, there's sprockets that go everywhere else. So that's this train track monorail that connects the entire world. A big project. That was Howard's idea. Maybe someone else had the idea, but he was the only one I ever knew who talked about it. A really cool idea. And again, it's something productive that creates jobs, that adds to our well-being over time, not like war. So that was his idea, and he was taking it to the United Nations, and he asked me to drive him there. And so I did. And that evening, he took my buddy Chuck Etzweiler and me to dinner at the World Trade Center. Top floor. There is a big restaurant at the World Trade Center on the top floor. And we had a wonderful dinner. Looked out, incredible view, obviously. And let me see if I can get back to incredible view. And so I'm so glad we did that, because in about a decade or so, you couldn't do that anymore now, could you? I ate dinner on the top floor of the World Trade Centers. Glad I can tell that. I got another story about the World Trade Centers that comes from my friend Robert Kwasnick that I'm going to tell another day. But anyway, so Howard presented his idea. He talked to some bureaucrat. It didn't go anywhere. And really that was that. And however, 20 years later, 30, 40 years later, I'm not sure how many years later, let's go with 30. Guess who started talking about this idea? I'm not exactly on the nose, but fairly similar idea was China. China is building the new Silk Road, and they are trying to follow Ike's admonition. And instead of being all about war, they're all about commerce and building things and building the Silk Road and making the world a better place, instead of trying to do war all the time, which we as Americans are doing. Shameful. We've got to quit. Some people are finally waking up to that, but some people are still just pumping the chest and saying, U.S. intervention. You vote for me for Congress, you're not going to get an interventionist. You're going to get someone who's going to vote against these wars and not increase the budget. $39 trillion. Got to quit that. So anyway, Howard had the idea. I'm proud of him that he did. Did I show you the picture? I did show you the picture of Howard, didn't I? Yeah. Let's go back to that for reasons. I'm not sure. if that's going to show up for you. Dang on it. Why is life so hard? Okay, there he is again. I think you see him now. So that's my grandfather, Howard. He worked for the civil service. He was like 4 different types of engineers: electrical, mechanical, civil, whatever. And he mostly went to third world countries after World War II and helped them with their water infrastructure. And so this is probably him. Looks like he got a semi-military uniform. He's in some office in some place with a cool map behind him. So that's what he did. Anyway, he tried to make the world a better place. And so kudos to him for that. He was an atheist. He'll have to deal with that. I guess he's dealing with that right now. We'll all have to, put our souls in the hands of a loving God, as my dad used to say. He was a fundamentalist, so there you go. I'm almost done. I'm trying to make this shorter. Ain't that short, is it? So this is another, yesterday's podcast was about the future, the views of the future. And I thought the only secular one was one world government, which probably my grandfather Howard probably would have been somewhat agreeable to. But this is a view of the future that's, it's not the Antichrist and it's not one world government. It's just, hey, let's build a great big old train, kind of like the interstates, and let's make the world a better place. Kind of similar to Elon and Mars, not quite. So I think I have finished my my podcast for today. So to do that, I better get rid of that. Okay. I'm Dean Arnold. I'm running for Congress. This is my podcast. Vote for me on November 3rd. DeanArnoldForCongress.com. Also, some of you people are listening. I don't have a huge audience yet. I'm going to get there, but y'all need to share this. That's the way it works, right? Like and share. Share this with your people. And I'll also I'm going to get to you like a 30 to 1 minute portion of this podcast. You can share that as well if the long podcast is a little too difficult. But yeah, we are rocking and rolling. I'm going to be doing this every day. I want to become a trusted voice for you. I want to become a voice of sanity in an insane world. Man, we can talk about that for a long time, but we won't today. Love you guys. Follow the Lord. Do your church calendar stuff. Step away from the news. And you do you. Do your thing. Don't listen to them. All right. So now I need to, I didn't mean to do that. Now we go into this. And, Dean Arnold. That should be